Welcome to Glory Through Pain, a podcast where we explore the extraordinary power of divine intervention, the truth of the gospel, and miracles that unfold when we trust in God's deliverance. I'm Christy, and on this journey, we'll share stories that testify to the incredible ways God moves in our lives, often in the most unexpected and miraculous ways. From divine interventions that defy explanation to miracles untold, we will discover together that even in our pain, God's glory shines through. No matter where you are in your journey, whether you are facing challenges, seeking healing, or simply craving a deeper connection to God's power, this podcast is here to inspire you, strengthen your faith, and remind you that nothing is impossible with God. So sit back, open your heart, and get ready to hear stories of transformation, healing, and miracles. Welcome to Glory Through Pain. This week on our podcast, we have Duke Callahan, the man of the hour from the book Glory Through Pain. Duke, how's it going? I've got some questions that I want to ask you, and I'm sure that the listeners want to hear. How are you doing?
Hanging in there.
Duke is my brother. I'm going to be asking Duke a series of questions. Duke is one of the main characters in my book, Glory Through Pain, and went through the tragic accident. However, he came out as a survivor by the miraculous of God who saved him through the incident. My first question to you is, I know that you've had to battle with mental illness, and I talk about this in the book, and you don't mind talking about it from what I've gathered, but I want to ask you, so that you can help others, I want to ask you, how has this affected you throughout your life, dealing with schizophrenia and the mental illness?
Oh yeah, it's a big part of my life. When I was 18, I started thinking like strange. It grew to a point where it affected my life. When you have schizophrenia or when you're different or even, feel like misunderstood, people tend to look at you differently. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Through it, I started behaving differently because when you think certain ways, you behave certain
Mm-hmm.
ways. When you feel certain ways, you behave differently. People don't understand it like you would. When you're different, when you're misunderstood, it leaves a big hole. You're empty inside sometimes.
I know what you're saying. People don't understand. And I think even I'm guilty of this because I know in eighth grade, there was a young guy that told me that he was suicidal. And I remember like rudely, like moving my desk away from him. And I felt so rude later in life, but I legit just did not understand. I thought, oh, well, this is scary, so I'm going to move my desk away. But after going through feelings myself and going through what you had to go through and seeing my brother suffer through it, like I would never react like that now. So I think you're
Right.
right.
Well,
People just don't
what
understand.
when like I said, when you're different,
Yeah.
when you're misunderstood, you get like shunned by society almost. And
Yeah.
like even your tightest friends like don't understand what you're going through. And in some cases, like people view it as weakness. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like when sharks smell blood, when you see something as weak, like it's just in people's nature to either like pick on it or you know what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
like go against it or try to, act any certain way because
Yeah.
they view you as different. When I felt misunderstood, was like, do these people really think this of me? Do my own like tightest friends actually think like I'm a piece of garbage because I think a certain way? It was unfathomable. People talking shit and out of context and like, you know what I mean?
I totally understand because sometimes I'll be talking to someone and all of a sudden the conversation is over and they're mad and they never want to talk to me again. And I'm like, I don't understand what just happened. Like, I legit was just telling you what I thought. And it's like, I think you and we've been through so much that, like, we might say things bluntly and not even realize, like, somebody else is looking that as their most tragic thing. But we're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is life. We're just
Well,
talking
no,
about
not
life.
yeah, not only that, I'm just saying like Chris, I feel like, people were listening to me in the car while I was like sitting there 18 years ago. like thinking people were like, sitting there judging me by the way I was driving, the way I was like talking in the car and shit, or
Yeah.
like sitting there singing a song, feeling like people are judging me. Just weird shit.
I
Just
know what
thinking
you're
weird.
talking about. I know what you're talking about. It's like a paranoid feeling.
Right, right. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I just felt so weird about so many things. I had so many good friends. I had
Yeah.
so many good friends, and I managed to fuck shit up
Uh-huh.
because of the way I was thinking, because of the way I was feeling. When you're misunderstood, people tend to make fun of it.
You know, honest to goodness, I don't know if I've ever understood someone more. I really get what you're saying. I
Yeah,
legit understand what you're saying because I've lost a lot of people because of things that I've dealt with. I've said some things that were messed up, and then I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. But I get what you're saying. I get the
right.
paranoid part, and I've been like that before, and I get that too. And it does suck because a lot of people don't understand.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, my friends, if I would go through like, some shit, they they like saw it as me being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or me being a dickhead, or me being mean when I was just going through some
You
shit.
were
You know what I
going
mean?
through, yeah.
And look, I'd be like, oh, my friends understand me. My friends, they know what I'm like, but they don't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people in general don't understand
They don't.
what it's like if they don't have it in their family. Not only do they see it as a weakness, like they see you as a piece of shit. I
And I
mean,
got
and I'm
something
like,
for you. I got something for you.
okay,
That's why Tupac says only God can judge me.
right. And that's one of my favorite quotes, and
Yeah.
that's TD's senior year quote, I think it was. But that's one of my favorite quotes
It's
because
true.
only he knows what you're thinking, only he knows
Exactly.
what you're feeling.
Look, I don't mean to flip this on me, but I just want to say, as a business owner, people will talk crap. And if
Right.
somebody says something about me, then every perceptive is then that's how I see her.
That's how she
Yeah,
actually is.
that's how I
Right,
see
right.
her.
Even though
Yeah.
even though you could be like thinking totally different things. You could be thinking, oh, this is how I'm going to help my business,
Right.
right? But then people are like, no, she just wants, all the money to herself, or
Right. Right.
all the fame, or all the whatever. You
All the
know what I
glory.
mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what they fucking think. And not it doesn't mean you think that way. People think
Exactly.
fucking different ways. Just because I'm schizophrenic doesn't mean I'm like every other schizophrenic person. Just as
Exactly.
because I talk English doesn't mean I have the same accent as every other English person. A
You
person
have really good
talks,
analogies.
yeah, well, a person from Boston talks way different than a person from Britain, even though they fucking, have the same English dialect.
Yeah.
Just like a schizophrenic person may have grown up differently than another schizophrenic person, so they think this way.
I really love how you're doing this podcast because I think it's going to break off a lot of stigmas. It's going to break off stigmas that people originally believe. They think of, schizophrenia doesn't mean somebody on the side of the street always begging
That's
for money.
crazy, like fucking yelling at Jesus and shit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of
You,
people can like, adapt. You
exactly.
adapt, or you die. So when I have it, I'm not gonna just because I
Wow.
have a thought that says, "Hey God, let me be one with Christ." I'm not gonna run out to the fucking corner of the street and yell it. You know what I mean? I gotta adapt.
Right.
You
Right.
understand what I'm
No,
saying?
I really do. I understand. And honestly, you can help break that stigma because also that's what holds some people back from even getting diagnosed because they're like, well, I don't want to walk around and have this
Right,
diagnosis. And
right.
now,
Be
but they
labeled
can
as this
act,
or labeled as that. Yeah.
but you come across as very normal to me and I can have very normal conversations with you.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
you
definitely.
work a
I mean,
job, you live your life, you enjoy life, you like football and you live a very normal life, you know?
I like football. Yeah, there's levels to it too. Don't get me wrong. Like there's
Right.
people with that have a lot worse off than me. I can attain a job and like behave in society, and luckily I have that in me.
I think also you've had a really good mom that has helped guide you. Not everyone has that.
I have a lot of good females in my life. I
Yeah.
want to
Oh, well,
say
thank you.
because my mom, I could never. live without. I just couldn't live without her. I pray that every day she has at least 30 more years. And
Yeah.
then you and Brittany, you make me look up to women. My mom, my grandmother,
Oh,
is
that's
a
awesome.
very strong woman who gets a lot of accomplished on how slow she works. It's funny that she gets so much accomplished, but yeah, you
I
and
hear you. I hear you.
she'll take a half an hour to do it, but she'll get the shit accomplished. And yeah, you and Brittany, have been like there to lead me, help me understand women more because women and men are different, and
Hmm.
it's just the way it is. It's just
Yeah.
the way it is. But I have a lot of strong women figures in my life that have guided me in the right direction.
So, where did this illness stem from?
I was broken in a lot of ways. Like I was a good
Mm.
football player and I was a good athlete altogether, and I messed up my knee real bad. Otherwise, it might have stemmed from just my genetics. I mean, shit happened
Yeah.
in a certain way, and then my genetics added to it. So it's nature plus nurture, and it just kind of, did what it did. I wasn't aware of what was going on at the time. Like I wasn't aware that I was schizophrenic or I was
Hmm.
mentally ill at the time. I thought like shit was just normal and just weird shit was happening to me. I'm
And
saying,
also, because I used to look up what can cause different mental illnesses, and it said stress was a big factor. And I know Dad was shot when we were just young kids, and I feel like that
yeah.
could have, just one stressful situation after another could have led to the heredity of the disease,
Yeah,
illness, what
maybe,
have you.
maybe, maybe. That was a tough dude, and he would always try and raise us right.
Yeah.
But I think it did have to do with genetics, and yeah, stressful situations such as that, getting shot and shit, and me like thinking about that, and then me having to deal with that I can't play my favorite sport in the world.
Now, I do have a question because we've talked a lot about the physical aspect and how it was hereditary and that kind of thing. Do you believe that? I'm just curious because I know you didn't really know God before the accident, and then you really found God after the accident. Do you believe that the illness, regardless if you have to take medication or not, do you believe that there's any spiritual aspect to what you've had to go through?
Of course, I mean, I'm not
Hmm.
like 100% healed of schizophrenia just because I went through an accident, but the spiritual side and having belief in something higher than you will definitely change your ways. And then not only
Wow.
that, everything I went through, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
not just the accident, but being homeless, having nightmares. Once that accident happened and I saw that God was there for me and saved my life and all the other shit I had to go through along with that in the hospital and all the pain and all the thirst and everything. Yeah, I mean, yeah, spirit, having a belief definitely will help you. You know what I
Wow. I
mean?
know each situation that I went through in life really helped my faith. And I remember praying for you. And right after the accident, I remember asking, do you accept Jesus into your heart? And I remember you nodding and saying, yeah. And then after the accident, I remember you talking about how you felt like they were the demons that you had to battle with. You didn't understand. Like, why do I got to battle with this? Sometimes I feel like if we're called to be great at something, or
Yeah.
if we're called to have a tremendous testimony, sometimes we have to go through that thorn in our flesh. All right, all you fellow listeners out there, stay tuned for part 2.